1857, India's first great uprising. In books, we read that the British somehow managed to suppress this rebellion. But books hardly tell us what the British did after that. Yes, they ultimately became successful in crushing the rebellion, but this mass uprising shocked them deeply. It shocked them so much that they realized India could no longer be ruled only by the power of guns. In this rebellion, common people took part actively. The British understood one thing clearly. The threat was not only from Indian soldiers, but from the structure of the society also. If the Indian society remained united in the same way, stopping the next revolt would become not only difficult, but almost impossible. So they made a strategy. Break social unity, break the identities that keep people united, and keep the record of every person, so that they could be tracked during a rebellion. The British began dividing the society on mainly two bases: religion and the occupation. Occupation meant caste, and they did this through laws. They started recording each person's address with name, religion, and profession. At that time in India, there were no technical colleges. Fathers used to teach their professions to their sons. The same profession continued for generations. Profession was the identity, and that identity was often called caste. This identity was flexible. People could change their professions when required. For the first time, the British put a legal stamp, making this identity permanent. Now the occupation meant caste, and the caste meant a fixed identity. People who had land and stable income were easy to record, but a large population had no land, no permanent homes, no farming, and no fixed income. They used to move from village to village and work as per season and demand. Many of them were artisans. Since they had no permanent address, tracking them was difficult. The British believed their tools could become weapons. They could carry messages across regions and help rebel movement. So Britishers saw them as a law and order risk. And so a dangerous law was introduced, the Criminal Tribes Act 1871, a law that labeled entire communities as genetic criminals, a law that changed India's social structure forever. Under this law, registration of nomadic groups became compulsory. An attendance system was imposed. People had to report to police stations regularly. Absence could lead to punishment. A pass system was also introduced. Travel without permission was restricted. Many communities were forcibly settled. Nomadic life was almost stopped. People were kept under surveillance. At first, only some nomadic and artisan groups were notified, such as Banjaras, Madaris, Nuts, and Tehsis. But when Britishers found no significant resistance, the list kept on expanding. More than 200 communities were eventually notified, including many groups now classified as SC and ST. An idea also emerged in Britishers' mind. If occupation passes through generations, crime must also pass in the same way. So, if a crime happened and no culprit was found, entire notified communities came under suspicion. That is, crime of a person led to punishment to the whole community. This led to the concept of inherited criminal behavior and the label of born criminal. The social impact was serious. Many people began keeping distance from notified communities. Jobs became harder to get. Social acceptance reduced. In this way, the British benefited mainly in two ways. First, the risk from nomadic groups reduced. The society became divided, and a divided society hardly rebels. Ultimately, the rule over India became easier. At the same time, competition against British goods reduced to a great extent from Indian artisans. Finally, while the Britishers gained, these Indian groups lost their social status. They were treated as lower groups in the society. Marriage ties got broken, isolation increased, education and jobs suffered. Overall, these groups fell behind in education, livelihood, and dignity. After independence, these communities were denotified in 1952, but unfortunately, the issue has not been handled with enough sincerity. Colonial era divisions seem to continue for political reasons. Some groups try to portray a legal discrimination of about 100 years as a social discrimination of thousands of years. Finally, the question remains, how will India's youth understand this challenge and handle this in the future?